The world as we know it has changed. Join the Avengers Station.
Hey guys, Bex from Trista here at Marvel Avengers STATION, that's Science, Training and Tactical Intelligence Operative Network, and officially the silliest Marvel acronym yet. It's a smaller travelling version of the Las Vegas-based interactive experience that's been running for a few years, and I have to stress that it's been called from the get-go an experience and not an exhibition, and that will become more obvious as this video goes on. You start off in a room full of rather cool Iron Man props, some of them just replicas made for show, and some I believe official props from the movie, although they weren't marked either way. And you're invited to become part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe storyline, whether trying to lift Thor's hammer, taking a sneaky peek at Bruce Banner's lab, and in fairness, all of those are true. However, the main medium for this is through the use of 1 million TV screens covered in text, mostly too high for the small children who'd be interested in reading it, and too long for them to be able to read anyway. The sales material boasts that for added authenticity, Marvel even worked with NASA to create this exhibition, with the space station giving it a superpowered injection of science and technology to help bring it to life. Which I'm also sure is true, and in practice I think this probably works a lot better in the LA version than it does in the travelling version, because nothing here feels particularly scientific. The set pieces our props are in aren't anywhere near as showy and movie-like, and the displays and interactivity in the London version is clearly nowhere near as complex and interesting as what they have in LA. They even have a eye motion tracking control Iron Man flying simulator. In the UK we do have the game where you can use your hands to interact and be Iron Man, which was probably one of the best things that they had in the show for interactivity, although it's something I've also seen at Comic-Con. But I feel like this didn't really feel anywhere near as actual sciencey as they were going for. This was a strange experience. It sort of is faux scientific. The screen didn't entirely work. I could only combine one element with nothing. Then I was treated to a flashy light show, which confused my camera focus and gave you the element you had created at the end of it on the screen. It was kind of cool. That's all I really have to say about it. The website asks if you ever wondered what Bruce Banner's lab looked like, and you can explore his biolab and you can see what happens to make his brain into the Hulk. In reality, there's a weird interactive thing with 3 simple animations you can cause Hulk to do at quite a delay, and that's too high up for small children to do and really not enough to keep adults engaged. And then if you want to know about this whole brain science thing, you're looking at a bank of screens which allow you to click between normal and Hulk brain, and which has a small animation, and then there are 3 interactive points which alter a single box of text. Yeah, a single box. These screens don't really have that much going for them. They might be slightly entertaining to small children, but again, it's just changing a box of text, and they're slightly too high up for such little kids as well, and I really think they only gave a second of interest for adults. Cool selfie opportunities were to be had here with lovely Harley Davidson, similar to, well, the same as the one used in the Captain America movies. There were a few real props, but they weren't really marked which were props and which were not. Again, giant banks of screens and some large empty spaces, and you could stand with these Captain America shields and take a selfie or a photo with your friends. This interactive game wasn't even on the screen I was looking at. It's on the screen below you, and you basically hold a handle and then you get a numerical score. A lot more screens, non-interactive I should point out, just screens, although we did get a glimpse of Captain America's suit as used in the movie. The staff told me that that was indeed a real prop. These beads, however, I don't think were real props. I think they're just prop replicas. They're kind of cool, but there were no information about them or what they did. Then there was this very long wall. This apparently is the real Black Panther helmet from the movie, just there sort of on its lonesome on this giant wall, sort of mostly unmarked. I'm unsure if that just wasn't quite finished because it was the press night. I'd be interested to know if that changed. Then there's the Thor room. Oh boy, look at it go. It's still going. It's very cool. I wouldn't say this was studying the universe in its current parameters using NASA's Eye on the Exoplanets program, as the website says. It's just very cool, and what's the payoff? Oh, it's just a lot of text, who would have guessed. And in the middle there's the lovely hammer prop to pose with I took photos with for free at Comic-Con in October. Yeah, that. It's a very cool room, but it just really doesn't actually have that much more going for it, and it's really just a couple of seconds of looking really awesome. Little touches like the Ant-Man arrows animation were actually really cool, and I wish there'd been a lot more elements like that, because I could see that was fun for kids and adults just as a little touch. The LA experience has you given a handheld mobile training device, mysteriously marked Apple, and throughout the experience you interact with things to find facts and answer questions and build yourself a hero profile, which is used at the experience finale, which I'll get into later. But in the London version, there's really none of that. I'm unsure if this edition would have made a huge difference, however it would have made a bit more sense of just the vast amount of data that otherwise does make this whole thing feel a little bit like paying £25 to explore a huge walk-around version of an animated website, which also happens to have some really cool giant props and lighting effects in it. Again, staff told me that the Ant-Man costume is the real one and one of the first places that's been exhibited, but that wasn't obvious from looking at the exhibition itself. Most of Vision's exhibition was just, again, screens and then one chamber. I'd expected slightly more from the kind of Infinity Stones area. Again, just lots and lots of screens and some large pieces of artwork on the walls. No Infinity Gauntlet, no Infinity Stones. All the information about them is just portrayed through the screens, really. There were some replicas of characters, again, not things from the actual movie for quite a few of them, but they weren't dressed up in the really cool sort of boxes and things that they had in the LA one. They're just kind of behind glass, which takes a bit away from the impact, because some of them weren't quite as detailed as I was expecting. They were cool, the guns were cool, but I don't think they were the ones used in the movie at all. They really didn't look like them. They looked more like just exhibition pieces made as prop replicas to me. Then we have some pieces of Ultron, again with more screens and text, although some fancy red lighting, and the sheer amount of text and how high that is as well. For anyone who's a child or in a wheelchair, that's not going to be particularly easy to read. Oh god, then the reflex training. This was basically the worst mobile phone game you have ever seen on multiple screens. You have to tap these JPEGs that move on invisible wires on a stock background and tap the villains, not the heroes. They're all not to scale, of all different sizes and random, and although I saw some kids and adults having great fun on this, it is literally just the simplest, worst coded thing I've seen in a long time, and at the end of it, after your seconds have counted down, your reward for having spent your time in this is just a number, same as with the strength training and other things. This giant arc reactor is a beautiful, enormous, showy prop with loads of screens behind it that just exist in order to flicker when this animation gets going fully. And then the next person would put their hand on it and it would do it again. As an experience, it's very cool, it's loud, it's showy, it was very immersive, but that's really all it was. The final game had you just given a random character, unlike in the LA one where you would build up your score and be assigned a character based on your replies to answers. You then have 2 buttons on a small Apple device to press and then are unaware whether or not it's you or somebody else throwing the things. It looks much better in the trailers than it actually feels to play it in real life. And then, of course, there's no losing animation, so regardless of what happens, you beat Ultron, and then you're out in Exit via the gift shop, where I was lucky enough to be given a lovely photo on a green screen, which I was told would normally cost £11. Which sets you in a scene with some of the Marvel heroes. And I must say the staff were really lovely, if not incredibly knowledgeable about Marvel, but they were very friendly, and they did give me this lovely souvenir picture. The experience has already had runs across the world, including New York, Seoul, Paris, Singapore, Beijing, and looking at TripAdvisor, the reviews have varied across the board, giving it a resounding neutral score, and I can see why. Parts of this were very cool and immersive. Others were kind of boring and much felt like very fancy set dressing to hide the fact there just weren't that many exhibits to look at, and the rest was an array of very cool selfie opportunities, but for £25 a head or $60 for a family ticket, I just really expected a lot more. If you want to see it for yourself, the Marvel Avengers Station will run in London at the XL until March 31st, 2019. It's a really hard one to judge because it isn't an exhibition like the Star Wars or DC ones I've reviewed on the channel before, and perhaps it shouldn't be held up to the same level in many ways. But those had things for kids and adults and hundreds of wonderful props, artworks, and in the case of the Star Wars exhibit, also easily as many interactive elements as this one, but they were kind of better. It's rare for me to create such a neutral review, but I made an oath, sort of, to myself I guess, to keep this channel pretty honest, and I can see why some people will love Marvel Avengers Station, and I can see why some people will be enthralled by all the giant cool replicas and the few real props they have, and why some kids will just really get on board with the big flashy light shows and the kind of experience side of everything. But compared to a lot of other similarly priced things I've been to, this was my least favourite one of the last few years. I'm sorry Marvel, but this one was just so hit and miss for me. Do let me know your thoughts on the Marvel Avengers Station. If you're on my social media, hit me up with some pictures of you doing the cool selfie opportunities, because like the selfie opportunities were seriously cool here. I will definitely give them that. And I'd love to know what you thought about it. Thank you to my Patreons who let me go and do all of this stuff, and all of my subscribers and social medias and all of the normal thank yous. And then the normal list of 25 things that you're supposed to do at the end of a video. Hit bells, likes, subscribes, stuff, etc. Right, thanks a lot guys, I will see you next time. Bye!